It's the most wonderful time of the year, signing day.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me, and Jimmy Stein from Bama Online, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll talk about FanDuel in just a bit. Thank you, everydayers, for being here every day, and thank you, newbies, for being here today. Jimmy, while I was singing that intro midway through it, I was thinking it would be dumber if I stopped. So I just kept going.
Well, tonight is the lighting the tree thing on NBC at the Rockefeller Center, and there'll be a lot of singing, and I'm sure it's going to sound just like that.
It's going to sound a lot like that. So signing day, you and I mean, it really did used to be the most wonderful time of the year, especially with Nick Saban around. But I was celebrating the signing day back when I barely had the internet at the University of Alabama, and I was fired up. We got Rob E. Staten, and for those who don't know, it was spelled Rob-E. Staten from Mississippi. He could bench press a truck. Couldn't do a whole lot else on the football field, though, apparently.
He was banged up a lot.
He was banged up a lot. I mean, I would assume he's banged up because people kept running into him. I mean, he was anyway.
We could use some of that physicality these days.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, on to recruiting. It went well.
Recruiting. So overall, I mean, no huge surprises. By the time this is out, it may be announced that Derek Meadows is signed with Alabama. We 100% believe Derek Meadows was signed with Alabama. That will help out some. We also 100% believe Ty Haywood will not be a part of Alabama's roster at any point. The transfer portal later on, who knows? But overall, no big-time surprises really either way. Jimmy, as of this moment, what's going on with Donovan Starr, though?
Yeah, BOL forecast right now is Meadows to sign. That'll be big, and that will offset the loss of Ty Haywood, who's almost certainly not signing with Alabama. That's going to be just an NIL thing that got out of Alabama's comfort range. Donovan Starr is probably choosing someone else. He seemed to really struggle with the decision. You know, a couple of days ago, he was like definitely Alabama. This was gonna be Alabama. That was his decision then, but that wasn't his final decision. It's a lot like that. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show. Is that your final decision? Apparently, it was not. Could be sticking with Auburn. I'm going to go with, this is more me than BOL. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt here. I think this might be Vanderbilt. Kind of hoping it's Vanderbilt. And it would be really cool, honestly, for Vanderbilt to sign the number one kid in Tennessee. I don't think he's universally the number one player in Tennessee, but at least one service ranks him as the number one prospect in Tennessee. Been pretty rare over the years for Vanderbilt to sign the top prospect in their state. But no, it's not going to be Alabama. A little disappointing, but that is offset by the fact, Luke, that DB is still one of my favorite groups in this class, because I think Alabama hit it out of the park with Dijon Lee and Chuck McDonald and Ivan Taylor, who all three are outstanding prospects. Not just good, they're outstanding. And Alabama signed all three of those guys. Andrew Bone over at BOL made this great point earlier today. He's like, not only is it impressive to sign three DBs like that, but off of last year's DB class. Because the way recruiting works is it's very hard to hit home runs in a position group in successive years, because those kids know who you signed last year. They're very, very familiar with who you signed in the class before you. So the fact that you could sign McDonald, Dijon Lee, and Ivan Taylor a year after signing Xavier Brown, Jalen Mbakwe, Zay Mincy, we saw how good those guys are, Red Morgan. We saw how good and impactful they were, and now they're playing, and now freshmen that come in have to beat them out because they're already on the field. So great job at DB, even though Alabama is going to most likely whiff on flipping Donovan Starr.
Yeah, I'm looking around now. It says he may announce at 3 p.m. We're cutting this right at 2 o'clock, and so yeah, I'd be shocked if it's Alabama too at this point, but I'd love to have him. But it's not a make or break thing.
No.
The key was to weather the storm with a few dudes, and Alabama seemed to have done that. Now, I mean, the Ty Haywood thing, we knew it was coming.
Well, one surprise, I forgot about this. One surprise in the negative thing was losing Jace Clarizio. And that was just simple as, look, a lot of times you get them to campus and then you lose them. They leave because they're homesick. Jace Clarizio cut out the middleman and got homesick before he got here.
Yeah.
that was literally what happened there. I mean, mom just didn't want her baby boy to be that far away, and I get it. I understand it. We all a lot of people listening to the show went off to college, and we know how upsetting that is for your parents. And hey, it's okay. The running back bell cow all along was AK Deer. AK Deer was the guy you had to get. AK Deer was the dude at running back. Once Alabama got him, everyone else at that point was gravy and arguable as to whether you even really needed them. Alabama actually flip-flopped a few times on whether they actually even wanted a second back in the class. So let's not make that into a big thing. But, hey, I'm also not spinning it. Alabama wanted to sign Jace Clarizio, and he chose to stay home and play for Michigan State.
Yeah, and again, I think it's okay for us to say not a big deal one way or the other, because we said when he committed to Alabama, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, look, we were like, okay, the staff likes him, but he's not the dude. Now, it did start the, some other 3 stars have panned out kind of talk.
Yeah.
But in the end, I mean, I'm fine with this.
If you're going to lose one, that might be one you'd pick. And again, at running back, I mean, Alabama, what they wanted was a big time dependable back. God, anything else would have been gravy. So you just sort of lost the gravy. You still have the mashed potatoes there.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, and then you got to be very happy with this class. Now, look, it's not going to finish number 1, obviously.
No.
It might finish 3 or 4. Is that right?
I think as we're cutting this, it's around 3rd, but Haywood is not officially off the list yet. He can't be removed from the list until he makes an announcement, right? His announcement is, I'm signing with Alabama. So he's got to make another announcement to move him off the list, and that could happen, or he could just sign with Michigan today or this week or something. That could happen, but we're just not expecting Haywood in the class. When you take Haywood off, Alabama's going to dip a little bit. However, as me and Luke have already alluded to, the forecast for Derek Meadows, BOL wise, is Alabama. So we're rolling with that, and that'll bump Alabama back up. He's not rated as highly as Haywood, but he is in the ballpark. So if you switch out Meadows for Haywood, you're taking a dip, but it's not very significant. Right now, I'd be comfortable saying, Luke, that Alabama will almost certainly finish top 5, and maybe as high as maybe 3. We'll have to crunch the numbers. And let's not forget this. We haven't talked about this at all. And don't, no one needs to make too much of this. There is still a late signing period. There is still going to be a dude or two out there. What happens is Courtney Morgan and Alabama's team of analysts, they'll literally have a meeting on who is out there. Let's double check. Is there someone out there, a late blooming senior that we can watch some film on and bring a guy in for an official visit? But look, you don't need numbers. You need quality. It's never about quantity. It's about quality. So you're looking, okay, who's available? Who's good enough to be on our team? So they won't quit looking because there is a late signing period.
Yeah, it won't be a bunch of dudes in this period, but there might be some dudes.
There could be. I mean, they slipped through. I think Ryan Williams was a late signee last year, and that was a different circumstance.
That's a whole
different circumstance. But there are kids that sign in the February thing that are impactful, but there are sleepers. I had this conversation the other day with a guy who works high school football games, and I watch a lot of high school football too. And what we agreed on, because he watches games, I said, I don't think people realize how many good players there are. There's so many good players that don't even make these lists, that sign with smaller schools and maybe develop late. But there's a lot of good players out there. It's just that most walking around college football fans have heard of about 100 guys per class, and anyone that they haven't heard of, they just assume isn't good. That's just not true at all.
Want to welcome back our good friends Better Together. Go download that app. Use promo code Locked On for a free $5 entry into any NCAA basketball contest. Better Together is a ton of fun. And look, it's it's the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent. You can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the social daily fantasy sports movement. Better Together is the first cooperative daily fantasy application. Better Together provides a sense of camaraderie and enhances the social experience of watching sports. Makes you realize that DFS is fun alone, but like a lot of things, it's better when you got somebody with you. It's also a way to stay connected with friends when you can watch sports together in person. Put your group in together, and you just get to make this better together. See the play on words there? Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code Locked On for a free $5 entry into any NCAA basketball contest. Play with me in a contest on, whatever day, and remember the code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together.
Thought I knew how that might end.
Yeah,
right.
it's right on the list.
It wrote itself.
It did. So a few other just broad recruiting strokes. First of all, I love that Ryan Williams was IGing live with Keelan Russell, who is the gem of this class. And it just because there are some rumors out there. I've had some people say things to me about Ryan Williams may test the portal just to see his worth. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. But I feel better when I see things like that happen. Just because anytime in recruiting, when somebody tells you a rumor about somebody in your neighborhood having an affair or a recruit, you always think that could be true, no matter what recruit it is, or who your neighbor is.
And just because something doesn't happen doesn't mean that the rumor wasn't true.
Exactly.
The rumor isn't Ryan made up his mind to leave. The rumor is that there's a lot of discussion out there about what Ryan's NIL worth might be. You don't think that's not true? Of course it is. But I'm not concerned about losing Ryan. Never have been. But we have to be realistic about what the landscape is in 2024. And if you're nervous about it, I assure you the coaches are. They stay nervous about it. I mean, it used to be back in the 70s and 80s. I don't know that coaches ever used the term roster management, but now it's not just a focal point. It's the job. It's practically the number one job. And roster management not only means bringing them in, it means keeping them while you got them, keeping the ones you want. Because now that the portal opens next week, there'll be some players that leave, believe it or not. I mean, like Nick Saban has famously said, why do y'all assume that kids that enter the portal rush down there and couldn't wait to get in the portal? A lot of them were kicked into it. and that happens everywhere. And that's going to happen here. There will be players that leave because they weren't necessarily welcomed back.
Yeah. All that's true. Now, broad picture. Okay. More broad picture national stuff. Oregon has a lot of money.
Phil Knight does.
One person at Oregon has a lot of money. Oregon made some big time moves. That sort of, in a roundabout way, helped Alabama. I mean, Naheem Alford didn't flip to Auburn; he flipped to Oregon. That was big. And look, that's maybe Alabama plays Oregon in the playoffs in the future, but they don't play them every year like they play Auburn every year. So I'm much happier with Naheem Alford going to Oregon than I am his going to Auburn. Then Michigan has a lot of money. They're probably going to end up with Ty Haywood. They steal Nate Marshall from Auburn, who was at one time committed to Michigan, flipped to Auburn, now flipped back. And I thought, honestly, I would have said he might be Auburn's first or second best recruit. He's a dude. He's a badass. Then a couple other things. The Chroma running back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ozamain Chroma. He was looking at Auburn, thought he'd commit to Georgia. We ends up signing with Florida State of all places.
I think they finished pretty surprisingly good, didn't they? I mean, I haven't really kept up with the national team. I think FSU finished kind of strong based on where they were.
All All right, hang on a second, and I'll see if I can find where Florida State is at the moment, right here at 2:01 in the PM. Wow, I'm in the all right. They're at number 21 right now.
I think they were in the 80s.
Yeah.
So they rose at the end, but didn't finish with the top group. Let me tell you about Oregon a little.
They only have 18 commits. I mean, so it's they have some room to improve. Their average is 89.46, and for reference, Alabama's is 93.4, Auburn's is 91.8, Ohio State 92.5. Also, Naheem Alford leaving. He flipped from Ohio State, so it hurt their ranking. Oregon has moved up. Texas is number 1 in the country now, and this is just unbelievable. And again, when people complain that SEC and Big Ten dominate everything, well, listen to this. SEC has the number 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 classes. The Big Ten has the number 4, 5, 7 classes and 13. Notre Dame is in there at 12. The first ACC class is Miami. And but then right after Miami comes Ole Miss and Oklahoma and Penn State and Missouri and Nebraska. I mean, holy cow, man. I mean,
a lot of programs are going to use the portal as a way to improve their talent level, and obviously that comes a little later. One point I want to make about Oregon, though, and who knows, this is me talking out of my butt. I don't know all this stuff for sure. I just hear rumors and stories, and some I believe and a lot I don't. But I'm just bringing up this point. I think Jerry Jones of the Cowboys could learn a lot from Phil Knight, because the way this NIL works in a lot of places is maybe at some place a booster writes an enormous check, but that booster says, hey, I'll give you all this money, but I want to be in. I want to be in the meetings. I want to meet these guys. I want to go to practice. I want to be on the sidelines. I want to sit. Hey, if I'm going to buy this quarterback, I want to be in the QB room during the meetings, and I want to be on the sidelines during the games. And it's hard to say no to those people because they're literally paying for it, right? Well, my understanding is Phil Knight does it a much better way. Y'all tell me what I need, and then I will write the check, and then I'm going to sit in my living room, and I'm going to watch the game on my big screen TV and wish you guys well, but you just tell me what you need. And I'm going to let the football people handle the football decisions and manage the football thing. I'm just signing this check. And man, that's the best of all worlds there. I mean, that's how you do it. You hire the football people you trust, and Dan Lanning and Tosh and all them are expert roster management guys. And then Phil Knight just writes the checks and gets out of the way. And I mean, that's how you do it.
Or in Michigan's case, you find a young, good-looking woman to marry a 200 times billionaire, and he says, I just want her to quit talking to me. Tell me how much I have to pay so that she can get interested in football again. That's another way. I'm not that way may be tougher.
I've got so many things to say about that subject that would both get me fired from this network and in trouble at home with the wife and everything, because I do have a lot of what I would think would be hilarious things to say. It would just be wrong to say it.
Yeah, you can't tell everything, Jimmy.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's that. We're going to talk a little bit of FanDuel now. FanDuel, the old favorite. We love them so much. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5. They can get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's only at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So you and I do our superlatives thing, and we will do that on the signing day kids like who do we think the biggest get was? Who was the biggest surprise? Who do we think could disappoint? Who do we think is destined for a medical redshirt? I hate that category, but we started it and now we put it in there every year.
I guess we don't have to.
No, we just do. I mean, we just do.
Yeah. The portal's been put in now. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We could have portal.
Who's destined for a transfer portal?
Who's portaling out
to make it seem
even
nicer.
even that's tough because it's like
it's
like, hey, welcome to the team. Bye.
Yeah, but compared to who's going to be medically redshirted against their will, it's a lot better.
Yeah. It's easier to swallow, but I wouldn't even know who I would get. I mean, I have to put some real thought into who's going to portal out. I know this. I don't want to say Keelan Russell, but way over 50% of quarterback signings portal out by the time their 5 years is done. Way over 50%. Mathematically, your mind has to go to quarterback first. But heck, I think Keelan Russell's going to be like a 3-year, 2-year starter at Alabama, and I think he's going to show up ready to play. I'm a big Ty Simpson guy, but watch out for Keelan. I mean, he's going to show up ready, and most quarterbacks aren't. Most quarterbacks take a while, like Ty. Ty took a while because he came from West Tennessee and rural Tennessee, not playing against great competition. Keelan played against nothing but great competition. He has great competition at practice every day. I mean, so he's going to show up ready to play at a high level, and we'll see how quickly he can make a run at that starting spot.
It may be too late for this, but try moving your mic like over your earphones because I'm betting you're hot. Like it sounds loud to me, and somebody told me about it last time when you used your mic. Can you move your mic up, or does it move?
It moves like that.
Move it up a little more. Up a little
more over my eye.
Now download it. Better. It looks goofy,
right.
But I think it's a little hot. I don't know this. Somebody in the comments will tell us, so don't worry. But now we will do our superlatives later on, and that may be tomorrow, that may be the day after tomorrow. But right now, I figure we'll save this last little bit for basketball. Tonight, Alabama plays North Kakalaki. I plan to go live after the game. I hope Jimmy can join me, and we'll see. But and talk a little bit about this. Alabama is a 1.5 point favorite now, or excuse me, 1.5 point underdog. They were a 2.5 point underdog. So the line has moved slightly. The SEC is absolutely waxing the ACC. And this basketball challenge is 9 of 10 already. And ironically, weirdly, the only loss is Kentucky, who is the bell cow of the SEC. We all know this historically. So tonight, the ACC has got some like pressure on them to make some magic happen because, if Alabama goes North Carolina and wins, and I'm going to tell you something, I don't put it past Auburn to go to Duke and win. Duke's good, but they've got flaws. They've already lost twice, and I think Auburn could go in there and win. If Alabama and Auburn go to the state of North Carolina and both win, wow, that's going to be seismic.
Changing of the guard is what would come to mind. That's like a changing of the guard if that happens. Like Duke, Carolina out, Alabama, Auburn in. That's nuts.
I mean, I could live with it though. I mean, I'm here for it. So let's do it if we can do it. But it is a shame that Latrell Wrightsell is out for the year now. That's just a shame. He is just a fabulous player, and I hate that he's gone. But we should be getting Chris Youngblood back pretty soon, and that will help.
Not tonight. It's not going to happen tonight, but it could be soon. I hear Chris Youngblood is practicing to some degree, and that would be great. He's going to make a huge impact. I think his presence is going to make Alabama tougher, and it's already a tough basketball team. But Chris Youngblood is a tough guy. He's also a leader on the floor. I think he can help dispel some of these, when the other team gets hot and goes on a 10-0 run. I think he's kind of a good – he's just a calming presence, but a tough dude. I'm very excited to add him to the mix for sure. I hate it for Latrell Wrightsell. Alabama's going to pursue some type of medical redshirt. The NCAA is more open to granting those things now than they did in the past. I hope for his sake. He's missed so much time between his concussion issue and now the Achilles. That kid needs a break.
Yeah, if the NCAA denied that, you'd think they're just like, this is all we got left is trying to deny this.
Yeah, he's not legally entitled to it. The NCAA has to sort of make an exception, but they have been routinely making exceptions in cases like Luttrell. So I don't. It's one of those things that you can't assume right now it's going to be granted, because it's not necessarily a cookie cutter. Hey, this fits inside the rule, but the NCAA doesn't say no about these things very often anymore. And what's the harm? I mean, it's not like Alabama's getting an additional 6th year out of this guy. He hadn't been here very long. He missed games last year because of injury. He missed the rest of this season because of injury. And the NCAA is soon passing, I guess it starts next year, the new redshirt rule, which means everyone's entitled to a redshirt if you play in 25% of the games or less. So, that's one more reason to grant him this, is like, hey, the new rule is on the way that he clearly would have, qualified for. So I'm optimistic, but we can't put it in ink just yet.
So what do you think about tonight's game? I mean, you like Alabama's chances? I mean, the ESPN predictor, whatever that's for, has North Carolina at a 58% chance to win.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. I kind of like Alabama's chances. I've watched this North Carolina team. They just don't have a great identity. Now, I'm not going to say Alabama does yet. We hadn't played our best game by a long shot. That's the good news. The bad news is we kind of we're kind of just hoping that's true. I feel like that's true. But so I'm hoping that comes around here shortly. And maybe it happens tonight. Look, this North Carolina team already has 3 losses, though. I think they're 4-3. And if they lose tonight, a 4-4 record after 8, being 500 after 8 games, that ain't very North Kakalaki like.
No, especially after being a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament a year ago. Got a little reverse psychology here. I'm going to pick North Carolina to win, not necessarily because I'm saying Alabama can't win. Of course they can, and of course they might. Maybe I should even say, of course they will. But I'm still uncomfortable saying that an Alabama team is going to just roll into Chapel Hill and win a basketball game. It just doesn't feel comfortable to me picking Alabama to win this game. I've yet to adjust to this new world that Nate Oates has built for us. I'm still sort of making my way around like this is a new planet, and I'm scared to venture out too far from the ship. So this makes me nervous to pick Alabama to beat North Carolina in the Dean Smith Center. So I'm going to go North Carolina, but I'm also got a little reverse psychology thing going on there.
I dig it. As a guy who believes in jinxes, I dig it. I once made my mom sit out in the car during the 1989 Alabama-Penn State game because we started playing better. And ironically, we ended up blocking the kick to win the game. So
wow.
I'm going to make her sit in the car more often, I think.
Well, hopefully she'll sit in the car tonight and Thomas Ram will hit the winning shot.
Not bad. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.